Hey there, physical science students. This is Ms. Ruark. We're in the chemistry portion of our unit, and we're just going to learn how to name compounds. All right, so in order to name a compound, first you need to determine the type of compound it is. Okay, what kind of compound is it? Well, remember from the last podcast, there are three types of compounds. There are ionic compounds, there are covalent compounds, and then there are acidic compounds. Okay? Ionic compounds have a metal first. Covalent compounds have a non-metal first. And acidic compounds have a hydrogen first. Okay, as long as you remember those three things, you'll be just fine. All right, so on your handout, you have a flow chart that looks something like this. So let's fill that in. What we're going to do is learn how to name covalent compounds first, because they are truly the easiest ones to name. All right, so every time that you go to name a compound, you want to start at this first box here. You always start in the top left-hand corner. And you ask yourself, is the first element a metal? Is it a metal? Well, if the answer is yes, we'll get there. If the answer is no, you're going to follow these steps. So as soon as you say, no, it's not, follow the arrow. The arrow points to the next box. What does it say? Name the first element. Okay, so let's say that we have CO2 as our compound. Is the first element a metal? Carbon. No, it's not a metal. It's a non-metal. All right, so name the first element. Carbon. That's easy. All right, name the second element with a suffix of IDE. So instead of oxygen, we would say it's oxide. We take the first syllable and add IDE to the end. All right, and then we're going to show the number of atoms that there are for each using prefixes. All right, well, what prefixes are we going to use? Well, we're going to use number prefixes to show how many atoms we have of each. So if there's one atom, we would say it's mono. Now, and I'll come back to this. Mono, I'll say it again, is not, can only be used on the second element. Okay? Mono is never used on the first element. It's not monocarbon dioxide, it's just carbon dioxide. Okay, so 2 is going to be di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, 9 is nona, and 10 is deca. Okay, so those are your prefixes that you'll use that'll show the number of atoms that you have. Okay, so let's go back to the example. We have 1 carbon and 2 oxygens, so we would say it's carbon dioxide. All right, so what if we had another example? Let's say that we had CCl4. First element, is it a metal or a non-metal? Well, it's a non-metal, so we name it carbon. All right, name the second element. Well, the second element is chlorine, but we name it with an IDE suffix, so it's going to be chloride. And we have to put in prefixes. First element is just 1. Do we use it on the first element? Mono? No. So we don't put anything for the first one, but there are 4 chlorines, so we say it's tetrachloride. So carbon tetrachloride. All right, not too bad, right? Well, let's try some practice. Okay, so the first one, we've already done this one, right? We did this one in practice as our example. So the first element is a non-metal, so we name it carbon. The second one is oxygen, and there's 2, so it would be dioxide. Dioxide. All right, what about on this one, number 2, SO3? Well, the first element is sulfur, and sulfur is not a metal. So we would just name sulfur. Okay, second element is oxygen, and there's 3 of them, so we would say trioxide. All right, here's another one, P4O10. All right, so phosphorus, first element, is it a metal? No. Okay, so just name the first element, phosphorus. Okay, second element, well, hold on, Mr. York. we've got 4 phosphorus. So we've got to put a tetra here at the beginning, don't we? Tetraphosphorus. And then we have 10 oxygens. And 10 would be deca. But anytime there's an A and an O next to each other, or an AO or OO next to each other, we won't leave we take the A off. So it would be decoxide. Now, if at first you have to put the A in there and you say decaoxide, again, at first, we'll be okay with that. But I expect you to know how to do it properly before the test. Okay, next one, OCl2, oxygen. Is it a metal? No. All right, there's only one, so we're going to put oxygen. And then 2 chlorines, so dichloride. All right, number 5. I want you to do number 5 and number 7 on your own. Pause it real quick and then come back and check your answers. Okay, number 5, 1 sulfur, so it would be sulfur, and 6 fluorine, so hexafluoride. Right. And then for number 7, there's 1 nitrogen, so nitrogen, and then there's 1 oxygen, so now we would use monoxide or monooxide, but we drop the O. So it's OO together, we drop the O on the mono. All right, number 6 and number 8. Why didn't I have you do those? Well, first element, Ca. That's a metal. Second element, Pb. That's a metal. We don't know how to do those yet, so I wouldn't have you name those. All right, so I think that's enough practice for one night. We'll stop right here, and we'll practice when you get to class tomorrow.